What's up? This is Richie from the Where Be Wild YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be taking apart this SHIMANO Curado 201K. Very popular reel, super reliable, you know, definitely a workhorse, super smooth. Haven't taken it apart in a while, just going to clean it up, do my usual assortment of some grease and oil, and make sure everything's nice and clean and shiny and running on all cylinders. And yeah, man, just do a little basic reel maintenance on it. So if you're trying to take yours apart at home, you can follow along and hopefully it'll help you out. Let's get into it. All right, so I haven't taken this one apart in a while, and I remember it being a little trickier than some of my other reels like the SLX and stuff like that, so hopefully I don't run into any trouble. But yeah, first and foremost, I'm just gonna clean this thing up just slightly with the Q-tip, get any dust or sand off it. It's not so bad at all, really. But look at that. That's like green algae from fishing with it. I'm gonna be pretty quick about this, or if not, I will speed up this footage a little bit just so you don't have to see me cleaning it for 2 hours. But yeah, this one's not brand new. The last couple that I've done have been brand new out of the box, and there hasn't been a need to clean anything off because they have never been used. All right, we're gonna start with a flathead screwdriver. Usually when I take them apart, I start off with a flathead, even though they're Phillips head screws. We got the first screw here, and we're gonna get rid of that. You gotta be really careful not to strip these things, man. That one actually came off pretty darn easy. Try to get this little cover off here. All right, now we need some different tools. I think we got a 10mm. We're gonna be loosening to the right, I believe. She was on there pretty tight. There we go. Just nice and gentle, you know, bust it loose and then get rid of the tool and just use your hand. Keeping a little pressure on it because it's probably spring loaded, if I remember correctly. Handle's coming off. We're just gonna gently remove the star drag here. See what's going on in there. Doesn't seem to be any sand or anything like that, so that's good. Same deal underneath, pretty clean. Oh, we got a little noise out there. I think we got some landscapers and stuff going on out there today, so I apologize for any noise. Next up we got, oh Jesus, what is there, a helicopter too? Give me a break, guys. I'm trying to shoot a video here. I actually think there's a fire up by the lake I fish today, which is not cool, but hopefully it's all good up there. So we got the spring. And as usual, I'm just working my way down here. I'm just putting stuff in the order I found it. And that way later on, you're basically just going right in reverse. Next up, we got a little nut here with a little indentation. You can see, and the indentation is facing up, so the spring sits in there nicely. So when you put that back on later, you want to make sure that it's in the same position. Get that up and off. Underneath, you got a little bit of a washer there, and it's pretty much the same deal as in all of them. You got a brass colored side and like a gray colored side, and the gray colored side sticks to the nut. So just remember that. Next up, where are my trusty tweezers? Where are those things? We got some spacer, I always say, I can never say that on every video. Spacer washers, thank you. It's a tongue twister, man. Spacer washers. Got two of those bad boys. And they are in the kind of back-to-back parenthesis position. So they're opposite each other, which gives it a little space and helps give your drag star a little more tension. And then under that, it looks like we got another little washer here, which is very tiny and kind of light. All right, you know, I should have taken the spool out first probably, so let's get on that before we go any further. Button on the back there, slide her on down. Hopefully it'll come out. I usually don't have line on the spools when I do this. There we go. Any bearings on that? Nope. Everything looks pretty clean. All right, what do we got here? So we got our first bearing down here, and yeah, looks pretty clean. I don't know if I should take this one out. I'll probably take this one out just to show you. This one I think I'm gonna leave in, and I'm just gonna give a little love to, a little bit of Lucas Real Oil. I will link that in the description along with everything else that you see me using here, the tools, the grease, the mat, everything. That way you can go grab it for yourself if you need some good stuff. Should I wipe that off? No, you know, it doesn't really look too bad. But maybe just for, yeah, that's just good oil right there. So we're just gonna do, if you can see, just gonna do a little drop of oil on each side of that bearing. Take my little bearing tester here and just kind of stick that in there and move it around a second, just working that oil. That one's pretty good. Doesn't seem to be much crap anywhere. We got a little bit of oil, I'm sorry, a little bit of grease rather, on the dial button here for your outside brake release. So I'm just gonna get rid of that grease. And I'm just gonna drop a little bit of oil in there behind that. And just let that soak in there. And that's for your outside dial there. And sometimes those are pretty tight. I said that, I think, when I did the Curado MGL 150, and you know, if sometimes they come from the factory and that screw right there is just so tight that it makes it really hard to adjust your brakes. But you know, you don't really want to mess with that unless you really have to, in which case you're just super gentle and you can loosen that screw right there just to, you know, kind of free up this button a little bit. But you know, if the reel is brand new, it's going to take a minute for it to break in. So don't rush to do that. Just give it some time. Alrighty, next up we're going to take off this tension knob to the left. Ooh, all right, yeah, this bearing's definitely coming out. I see some grease here and I don't like that at all. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna just remove this little spring clip starting with the outside. You're gonna pretty much get a good look in there on yours, and there's a break in the spring clip. So you wanna start on one side of it, right next to where the break is. And before I go prying, I'm just gonna keep my thumb right over it so it doesn't go flying, because they will. They will, boy, they will. So let me get the little bearing remover tool. This thing's pretty sweet, man. You got a tester, and then you unscrew it, and you got a little remover, which is very useful. Jeez, look at, I don't know if you can see that. Got some grease on that bearing there, and that could be responsible for some crappy casting ability. We're just gonna get in there, clean up any grease. Yeah. Also clean around the outside since the knob's off, gives us a little opening. And then we are going to clean off this bearing. I'm disappointed right now that there's that much grease on this bearing. I don't know why I didn't catch that the last time I took this thing apart. So I'm just wiping off any grease. I may have to get a Q-tip again just to get in there even further than I can. That crap off. Grease is not good for bearings. I say it all the time. Slows them down. You just want oil. And speaking of bearings, I just did this thing the other day where I was looking for a replacement bearing. I usually get them from Boca Bearings, and they sent me this file to print out, which is pretty sick. I actually got it printed out and laminated it. And what it is these bearings should be the exact spec, 2-spec size of each thing. There you go, first one. That's pretty much the one right there. That's cool, man. So you can go to Boca Bearings website and probably get this thing to print out, and that way you can always find your replacement bearing size. That's pretty sweet. Pretty sure it's that one. Looks very similar. That's pretty money right there. That's cool. So yeah, I usually use Boca Bearings. I'll leave a link in the description. Pretty basic, but high quality. Man, that's cool. That's cool. All right, let me just finish getting this all cleaned up, and then we're just gonna drop some fresh oil in there. Just 1 or 2 drops. I'm just going to work that around a little bit. You do a little bit on that other side. Nothing crazy, but we definitely want it. I feel rough. No, that's just sliding on the thing. You want your bearings to be super smooth. I actually don't like how loud that is, but I think it might just be on that tool. All right, so we're just gonna slide this thing back in there. It looks like there's a little white housing in there. I'm not gonna pull that out, but it's in there, so just be aware of it. Pop that bad boy down in there. Then we're gonna get our clip back on. Wipe off any grease that's on that, since we just wiped the grease off the bearing. But gently, because this thing is like super, super weak and thin. And we're just gonna lay that in there. Right with our finger, just like that. That was easy. Some of them you need to get a tool and pry it in there, but that thing went in there super easy. All right, cool, man. So, first 2 bearings are all good. First one did not have that grease on it at all. Let's bust into this thing now, shall we? Wow, this is a little different, you know? There's no screws on the outside there. There's 2 on the inside. And yeah, this might be a little different. Let's see what happens. Oops. Sorry, chatted. So we got 2 screws here on the back plate. We're gonna start with those. And it may require taking off one that's right there too. I don't recall, but let's just see what happens. Just gonna loosen them up a little bit with this flathead. Come on, man. Let me break here. Once you bust them loose, I always say it, you're better off with the Phillips head. Does this one match, or is it too big? It's a little big. But got another comment the other day on one of these videos saying, oh man, I stripped one of my screws. It happens. Always start gentle with that flathead and then move on to the Phillips. All right, so I'm gonna put this up top here. This one I'm gonna put right down the slant. Same size. There's another screw hiding down here behind the button that might be one of the ones that I need to get off to get this cover off. I don't have the schematic pulled up or anything. I kind of knew it with this one. Let me see if that gets it. Nope, still no go. All right, so we're gonna just put that down the bottom, and I guess we're gonna have to go with this screw that's on the inside here that's a different color. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this here, but you got another screw inside there, and I believe that's gonna be responsible for getting this thing off. The SLX reels are so different, it's crazy. All right, got that silver one. Is that gonna get us to where we gotta go? Yes, it does. All right. Whew. So you had 2 screws on the back, 1 screw down the middle there on the little round circle part, and then another screw tucked in right behind the button. That one really threw me. Now we should be off to the races. And we are. All right. Wow. That was wild, dude. Just gonna balance this up real fast. All right, so now on the inside here, we have another bearing along with the roller clutch inner tube. There's the bearing. It looks like there is a little bit of a washer there. There it is. I'm gonna build these on this side so I remember. And then that inner tube probably goes out this way. And I'll pull that out. And then remember that that little washer went on top of it. Just so you know later. Oop, oop. There you go. Just put that on there like that. All right, so that other bearing fell off that was in there around this roller clutch inner tube. We are just going to clean up any grease that's in the one-way bearing there. Don't need any grease or oil in there. That is a friction-driven device. Just gonna get any little crap out of there. Make sure there's no hairs from the Q-tip. We already took care of this bearing, so that's cool. And we're gonna take care of this one. That one's a little bigger and wider. Just give it a little wipe. I gotta pick up the pace here, guys. I gotta pick up the pace. That cover really slowed me down. Oops. Clean that up. Set that down. A little bit of oil on that. Oops. Cool. It's pretty smooth. I'm gonna do one more little drop on that side. All right, we'll be cool. So then we will fire that back where that belongs. Set that in there for later. All right, now on to the meat and potatoes of this issue here, huh? Main gear, gonna slide it right off. Actually, first and foremost, let's take these little 2 springs off so they don't go flying on us. Then we can slide this main gear up, nice and easy. And then underneath you got a drag washer and your little sprocket there. You can get rid of that too. A little bit of dirty grease in there we'll get rid of. So let's take care of, wow, look at that. Wipe that crap off. Making my mat all dirty. That's what it's for. Love that thing. All right, let's take care of this first, and then we'll get into the pinion gear and all that stuff. Just move this off to the side somewhere. You know that's gonna fall, but maybe not. All right, let's go. Drag washer time. We're gonna be using our Cow's Star Drag grease there, Universal Real Star Drag grease. We got 2 drag washers. Have this little metal part here, and it's got this indentation on it, and you want this outside pressing down on that drag washer, so remember that. And then it kind of just has the little pop out on top, which makes it pretty obvious to let you know which way is up, which way is down. All right, we got our little drag washer there, and we're gonna just clean this up. Damn, dude, this didn't really have much grease on it. These teeth are pretty clean. That's wild. Just gonna give this a little wipe off, make sure there's no carbon fiber coming off, anything like that. Same thing with this one. We'll wipe off this little sprocket here. Okay, then we're just gonna hook these washers up real fast with a little of this. Little dab of the finger there. We're just gonna work it around. Stuff that looks like peanut butter. You just want a really thin coating where you almost don't even see it. Just let it soak it up like a sponge. If you get a little too much on, then you just wipe it off with a paper towel. But it's amazing how these things will soak it up into that carbon fiber. I say it all the time, but you know, no grease on these, you're getting max drag, but the washers are gonna rip apart on you pretty quick, and you're gonna have to replace them. And if you put too much grease, your drag's gonna slip. So you're probably sick of hearing me say that if you watch all these videos, but if this is the first time you're watching one of these videos of me taking apart a reel, that may be helpful to you. And if you're enjoying this video, go ahead and drop a like right there. Helps us out, man. I never know if people are digging these videos, man. You know, it's not like the most popular thing in the world, taking apart fishing reels. It's, you know, it's kind of like a real tight niche of people who are psycho enough to take apart their fishing reels like I am. And if you're out there doing it, man, what's up, dude? We'd get along. You're psycho like me. You have problems. You should be ashamed of yourself. Who does that? It's the best. You want your stuff running good, you know what I mean? All right, got a nice little layer on there. Might just put the tiniest little bit more. Soaked it up fast. Yeah, also let me know if there's any reels that you want me to take apart, because I have a decent collection of reels, man, and I haven't taken them all apart yet. So I'm always wondering, like, you know, which one do people need the most? Which one do people want to see? I'm just doing them all, you know, as I need to take them apart for myself and clean them up. So it's just kind of random. And today it was this one, the old Curado. Shimano just came out with a new Curado, which is pretty sick. Curado M, I believe. I think that's what they called it. I'm curious to get a look at that. Just a little extra right there. All right, they're all hooked up, ready to roll, son. There's a little bit of little bit of wear and tear on the outside of that one. Happens. That's what happens. All right, next up, we got our pinion gear here. We're gonna rip that off, straight up and out. That fell off the yoke there. And we're just gonna wipe this off, clean any old grease off. You can see how there's a little blue grease left on that, and some of it is like black and dirty, so you can get off all that crap. I just want these things nice and clean, man. And if this yoke fell off on you when you pulled that out and you're like, oh no, is it upside down or is it right side up? Don't worry about it. We're gonna go over that in just a second. Just cleaning off any extra crap here. She's a dirty little bugger. Not have to go insane, but definitely want it as clean as possible. Still just a little bit going on there. That's better. All right. It's getting messy. Getting messy. So, as I was just saying, if this fell off on you and you're not sure whether it's, there's some hair from the Q-tip, right side up or not, there are these two little ramps that I try to point out every time I do this here. One ramp is there and one ramp is there. And this thing matches up perfect to them. So that's how you tell. You know, if you put it upside down, the ramp is not gonna match. There's just that ramp there and ramp there. And you can see how it just kind of fits perfect right into it, meets there and meets there. You really want to make sure that's in the right position when you put this thing back together, or you might run into some problems. I'm just going to clean up real fast any of this old grease that's laying around it here on the ramps, stuff like that. And then you got your main bearing down in here, which I'm not going to take out, but if you were going to take it out, it's just these two screws here. This whole thing pulls up, and it could just, everything can fly off once these two screws come out. So be very careful, and unless you want to replace that bearing there, don't even bother. Don't even mess with it, because it can get out of hand on you fast. But yeah, I'm just cleaning up any dirty crap that I see here. And then we're gonna lay some fresh grease down in here. You can use oil too, I guess, for the bottom of your reel in here. All this little stuff, all these little inner workings. I just use grease. I find that that works pretty well for me, but some people like to put oil in there. I'm more of a just oil in the bearing type of dude myself, but to each their own. So one more little wipe here. I wish I could get in there a little deeper actually with that, but just gonna make sure there's no grease on that main bearing. And we're gonna drop some oil right in there, right off to the side of it, so it catches on the lip of the bearing there. Oops, a little fell through there, but that's all right. And we're just gonna send this down until it catches, work that around a bit. It actually spins the whole thing, which is cool. All right, very nice. Is there a little crap over there that I want out? No, all right, good. So now we're gonna rip out our paintbrush and our pen reel grease. And we're just gonna give a tiny, tiny little love here and there. We're gonna put a little bit on those ramps. Not much, just a clean little coating. We're gonna put a little right here where this moves up and down for the button. Just to keep that running smooth, a little bit on the spring here. This little area here where this mechanism slides back and forth. Just very light coating, you know, just to keep it running smooth, keep any water or anything like that out. Not much though. Then you can take a little and go in between these two gears here. Very light though, man. Keep it real clean. Don't go nuts. Those are plastic too, you know, so I don't even know how necessary it is to grease those up, but I just do the tiniest little bit on them just cause. I mean, they are gears, but they're plastic, so. Underneath this here, your worm gear and then the little drive shaft there's probably another bearing underneath there, and it's kind of a pain to get that out. So we're just gonna take a tiny little bit of oil and see if I can get this needle down underneath that gear. And I'm just gonna pour, you're never gonna be able to see that, I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna drop a little, there it is right there, a little oil underneath that gear, and hopefully let that fall down into the bearing, down in there. All right, now we're just gonna get a little bit of grease on our gears here, and we're gonna be able to put this thing back together. So first and foremost, let's do this main gear. And before I even do that, I will put this on first. So remember, you got your flat side pointed up with your little drag washer. There's a little bit of a rounded side on one side, flat on the other side, flat facing up. And then this is going to fit in there down on that square. And you wanna make sure that it's all the way seated down. So you just kind of twist it until it sits perfect like that. If it's up, it's not gonna catch. So if it's just sitting there, no bueno. Spin it until it locks nice down into that square key. Then you got your drag washer, your first little drag washer. Get that on there. And then you can get your main gear going. I'm just gonna take a little bit of this grease here, and I'm just gonna pinch this so the drag washer doesn't fall out, but we're just gonna give it a couple taps. That's weird. A couple taps on the side here. And run our finger across it and get that grease to sit into those teeth. We're not just covering the whole thing with this. You just wanna get those teeth. So you're just tapping the brush on the side, and don't go crazy. Just cover like half of it, maybe 3/4. You don't have to cover every tiny little spot because it's gonna share it with the pinion gear, and then you're gonna have some sloppiness going on. Cool. I basically got half of it done. I guess I'll just do one tiny little section more. Just tapping the brush and then sliding that finger over it and just bury it in there. Cool. So we can slide this bad boy back on. Actually, you know what? Let's get our pinion on first and then we'll slide it on. Same drill with the pinion gear. A little blue pen reel grease. That's a lot. Don't need that much. We're just gonna hit these top teeth here. Hope you're enjoying this, man. Hope you like these videos, seriously. Let me know in the comments if you dig these videos. I don't know if you find them boring or relaxing or anything, man. I love hearing from you guys. Makes me feel like I'm not completely psycho for making these kind of videos. I think it's fun, man. This is one of my favorite videos to make, honestly. It's just kind of relaxing for me. All right, so into the yoke. Remember, right side up so your ramps match. And we're just gonna slide that over those posts and straight down. Just like that. I'm gonna give a tiny, 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 tiny little bit of grease on these posts here. You can see that. Just a a little bit. And then over the yoke, again, by where those ramps are, just because this thing slides. Tiny little bit. Good on the pinion gear. And then we can slide our main gear back on. And that top area is keyed. So you just want to spin that until that falls down. And we're just going to slowly lower it, being mindful of the pinion gear. You may have to pull back on it, but in this case it just sat perfect. All right, so now as this spins, it's going to share it with that pinion gear, all that grease, and you're going to start to see it build up. See that? And so I usually do this before I lock it all up, and then take off the tiny little excess. You want a little, but you don't want it super sloppy, because that grease is never going to hit anything important. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense, like it's just going to sit there on the end like that, all sloppy. So it's just going to turn black and gross. So I just take it off, just take that little extra chunk off and get rid of it. All right, we're good to go, man. Let's put this thing back together, shall we? Let's get it back together. Put that away. We're off to the races. Actually, I just want to wipe off these springs. Don't forget about these springs. Gotta put those bad boys in. I'm just gonna put these right over those posts. 1, 2, and then we're gonna take our why do I never remember what this thing's called, roller clutch inner tube, with that little bearing, I'm sorry, geez, what am I tripping, with that little washer on top of it. So remember that little copper washer on top of the roller clutch inner tube, and it's forked, so those forks got to fit right into that area there. Let's get that on. Just let it slide all the way down until it locks into place there. You got to really make sure all that stuff's lined up, or the reel is not going to work. All right, double check, everything's in the right place, everything's oiled, everything's greased. I think we're golden. Let's get this cap back on. Just gonna slowly lower that down in there. That bearing's gonna pop out on us on top, but that's all right. And this one seems like it's gonna need a little bit of a shimmy. There we go. Cool. That bearing right there, you're just gonna slide that down. It's all good. Here it is. All right, good stuff. Let's get this thing on. Make sure there's no big gap there. Your seam's nice and tight. Let's do it. First and foremost, I guess we will start with, we'll start with this one here, just to give us a little stability. There you go, tight is tight. Put this other one on. Remember, I placed them all up here on this grid in the order of which I found them, which really makes life way easier. Tight is tight. And we got that little baby one that was down next to this button here, which is so friggin' odd, man. This one's gonna be a little bit of a headache, isn't it? Don't fall out on me, sir. Man, that one's a pain. That one is a pain. Tight is tight. And then the last one, another odd screw is down in that hole there. Come on, baby. Just gotta get a little bit of a grip on that so I can Tighten her up. Tight is tight. All right, man, we be cool. I'm just gonna take my brush here and just get a little bit of wipe here on this little swing arm spring there, just to keep a little water and crap out. All right, man, looking good. That back up. Why doesn't that want to close? Thank you. All right, man, we're almost there. If you're still hanging in, we are almost there. Let's get this handle back on. First and foremost, though, let's get this tension knob back on, because once you get the handle on, it's kind of a pain to get this on. So tension knob, screwing on to the right. Don't have to crank it down all the way, but, and then now we can just go in reverse from laying all this stuff out. Got our little washer here, and this bearing might be sticking out a little bit. So we're just gonna push that in, make sure that's seated nice. This little washer down in there, nice and gently. Okay, and I just wanna make sure that's seated all the way down, which it is. Next up, we got our spring washers in the opposite facing position from each other. Get those on. Next up, we got our nut with the copper side facing down. So the gray side, remember, is sticking to the nut, and you got that groove pointed up so the spring can fit in there. Down to the left to tighten. You don't have to tighten it all the way. You can hold this little shaft if you want there, if you want to just get a little extra tighten, but once you start doing your drag, it'll tighten up for you. Spring sits perfect in that little area of the nut there. And we got our drag star, and we're just gonna line it up and just kind of give it a twist down until it sits. Hear how that makes your drag click? Handle. And it's just like this balancing act where I like distribute my fingers, the weight. I'm just gonna get this nut on to the left. And before I tighten it down all the way, I just want to make sure that drag's tightening and loosening, because I don't want to go through all the trouble of putting the cover on and all that stuff without it working. So seems to be good though. And now a little trick here, we're going to tighten it as much as we can, and we're going to try to line up one of those points on the nut with that hole to help make the little cover match up to it. So I'm just going to slowly tighten this up, tightening to the left. And just being gentle, you know. Try not to scratch up the nut too much. Now we're starting to get tight. I'm just going to try to get one of those points of that nut lined up with that hole there. This should be close. Let's see. Money. First try. That's awesome. So if your nut is not tightened to the perfect position, this cover is not going to sit flush on there. You're going to have a big ugly gap right in here, it's just not going to sit in there nice. So in some cases, you're going to get it on and you're going to be like, what the hell, man, this cover doesn't fit on. You're going to have to just tighten it a little further or loosen it just a little bit so it all matches up and that pattern sits perfectly over the nut. Drop our screw on. Little baby screw. Tight is tight, don't want to strip it. Let's get this, this spool back in. Close her on up. Okay. Drag work. Yes, sir. We're just going to work that in for a second, but before we do, I'm just going to take a little bit of oil, drop it on the worm gear here on the right side of it, a little bit on the left side, work that in. All right. Make sure there's no crap in there. Yeah, there's a little bit left on that I didn't wipe off. Not bad though, a little bit. And then last but not least, we're just going to take a little bit of oil and drop it right down on each bearing area here for the handles. And just kind of keep it on an angle to let it drop in there as you play around with it. That was really nice. And that just about does it, sir. You're gonna hear that tape flying around the spool. Hey, 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 hey. I will take that. So you're just gonna play with it, you know, loosen it up a little bit. Free spool is pretty money though. Yeah. Even with that tape on there. So that's pretty sweet, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty sweet. Just sounds a little weird because of that, but it's gonna just keep smoothing out more and more. That spool tension's probably loose too, huh? Just tighten that up a little bit. That might be. And here's a little trick. You wanna kind of wobble your finger back and forth on that spool. You hear that play? You want to tighten this until that play goes away. Am I tightening or loosening right now? There it is. Hear that? There you go. So just to the point where, what's that little noise? Just to the point where that play stops. And that's pretty money right there. All right, man, well, it feels amazing. I'm trying to figure out where that tiny little noise is coming from, but I'm 99.9% sure it's that tape. Yeah. Yeah. Just sounds weird with that tape. It makes it like a fan, but that is a damn good free spool right there. I'm not mad at that at all. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Shimano Curado 201K. This one is, yeah, straight up 201K, 6.2 gear ratio. I got it for throwing crankbaits and spinnerbaits and stuff like that. Actually, you know, I've been throwing a lot of small swim baits on this reel, which is pretty sweet. It's not really the best reel for throwing gigantic swim baits, but you know, yeah, here's one right here for you. Jackal, Gantarelle, Junior. That's great to throw on this thing right here. I think it's like 1.5 ounces, you know. I think I got maybe 15-pound test on here, something like that. It's perfect for that. Yeah, I have problems. Just a brand new Gantarelle just chilling in the box right now. I haven't even gotten to use it yet, but it's on my desk, so it's gonna be used pretty soon. So that wraps it up. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this, man. I hope it helped you out. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to hit me up in the comments. And, you know, if you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments as well. You know, like I said, I love hearing from you guys. If there's any other reels, any Shimano reels, basically, that's really all I have is Shimano reels. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole on any other companies. I got enough problems with addiction with Shimano. So, but yeah, man, if there's any other reels that you want to see get taken apart, I might have them and I'll take them apart to kind of show you how I do it. But yeah, man, these are fun. I like doing this type of stuff. It's just chill, man, and I hope it's entertaining to watch. So that wraps it up. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, and if you're into this sort of thing, don't forget to hit subscribe. We put a new video out every single week. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Later. Damn, that free spool was impressive, wasn't it? Yeah, boy. If you want to see more videos just like this one, be sure to check out the rest of the Where We Wild YouTube channel, where we post a brand new video every week. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get notified whenever we post a new adventure. Thanks for watching.